In 1980, AC/DC was reeling from the loss of their friend and frontman, lead singer Bon Scott. But the band's founding members, Angus and Malcolm Young, were not going to let AC/DC die with him.
Malcolm and Angus decided that we should just steam on.
We all agreed that the last person that would want to see it fold would be Bon.
Finding a lead singer to replace Bon Scott was a daunting task. Bon's powerhouse voice and unabashed showmanship had been central to AC/DC's success. Their search led them to Brian Johnson.
I saw them on television, a program called Rock Goes to College.
They are, of course, AC/DC. They're just about to start a tour.
I was just transfixed with Angus and Bon. And these two guys up the front were two of the greatest characters I think I'd ever seen, you know, especially Angus, you know, with his antics. And I was hooked.
Brian auditioned for a band that was feeling mixed emotions about replacing a friend they had buried only a month earlier.
There will never be another band, but Brian walked in one day for an audition. We just felt really comfortable with him, and again, he could sing his balls out.
AC/DC hired Brian in April of 1980 and got down to the task of making their first album without Bon Scott. The music of the album, its title, and its cover were all dedicated to Bon's memory.
We wanted just a simple black cover. We wouldn't have even done him justice in the words. Also, even, you know, with the bell and the beginning, the Hell's Bells, was our own little tribute.
We were determined to make a good album, you know, to make the thing work. Not to prove ourselves, but to show we could still get the unit cranking.
I obviously was still thinking about Bon. You know, I remember Brian remarked a couple of times that how it was kind of eerie for him.
During the emotional sessions for Back in Black, Brian Johnson stepped up to the microphone and into Bon Scott's shoes.
I remember just going up there and just crossing my fingers and just belting my lungs out as high and as hard as I could with as much feeling as I could. I mean, I wanted to impress these guys.
As Brian and the band prepared for the upcoming Back in Black tour, there was apprehension about how their new lead singer would be accepted by the fans.
It was the first time ever I'd be singing some of Bon's songs. Nerve-wracking it was real nerve-wracking.
Brian was very worried, you know, at the time, but we thought, well, you just hang in there, Brian. You just do what you do best.
The fans were still with AC/DC, and now there would be millions more of them. Released in the summer of 1980, Back in Black sold 16 million copies to become one of the 10 best-selling albums in rock and roll history.
To come back that strong with a new vocalist is an absolutely remarkable feat for them to accomplish.
She was a fast machine, she cut the motor clean. She was the best damn woman that I ever seen.
AC/DC's musical memorial to Bon Scott hit the top 5 on 3 continents, and that fall, Back in Black spawned the band's first top 40 single. The album's phenomenal success proved an impossible act to follow.
After Back in Black, it was so huge. The world was waiting for this, you know, for this follow-up. And I just don't think you can do it. It's like the stock market today, it's going to fall down sometime, you know. I mean,
But falling album sales were only the start of a streak of bad luck that would haunt AC/DC throughout the 80s. In the spring of 1985, AC/DC became linked to the investigation of a murder case in California.
Upon investigating that murder, one of the pieces of evidence that was left behind was they had bearing the letters AC/DC on it.
In an attempt to track down the infamous killer known as the Night Stalker, homicide detective Gil Carrillo released a picture of the hat to the press.
What the significance was trying to get attention through the media to see if anybody knew somebody that wore an AC/DC hat that might call in.
Sheriff Department, Martinez, help you?
The county was held in terror. They were full of fear.
While law enforcement pressed their manhunt for the mystery man suspected in 13 brutal murders, the press built up the serial killer's link to AC/DC.
Press assumed an awful lot, and the press put a lot more to the significance of the hat than the homicide investigators.
On August 31st, the Night Stalker was finally arrested. The press reported that Richard Ramirez, a confessed Satanist, was inspired by AC/DC.
I thought it was a joke at first. And we just thought, this is crazy. I mean, why are we connected anyway?
Reporters analyzed the lyrics to the AC/DC song Night Prowler for connections to the Night Stalker.
As I slip into your room,
But our song is not called Night Stalker, it's called Night Prowler. And it's about things you used to do when you were a kid, like sneak in at your girlfriend's bedroom window when their parents were asleep.
It just sickens you, you know? It sickens you to have anything to do with that kind of thing, even if your name's mentioned and you've got nothing to do with it.
The media frenzy surrounding the Ramirez case horrified the band. As the press played up the satanic angle, it was suggested that AC/DC's name stood for Antichrist, Devil's Children.
It's been called everything since, you know, AC/DC, the meaning of the letters, you know. No matter you tell them a sewing machine story and everything, they still think, no, there's more to this.
And I don't know why they zeroed in on us. I could never see the connection myself.
That same year, AC/DC found themselves at the center of another controversy when the Parents Music Resource Center, led by a group of U.S. senators' wives, including Tipper Gore, placed AC/DC at the top of a list of artists they deemed obscene. The attacks on AC/DC continued through the mid-'80s, but the band ignored their critics and focused their energy on a string of gold records and one concert tour after another.
As long as we got clubs to play, well, we're cool, you know. If we could play all around the world in clubs, hey, what a life. So we were never, you know, felt defeated.
Still, the years since Bon Scott's death had taken a toll on Malcolm. His drinking had steadily increased, and in April of '88, he finally bottomed out.
My drinking overtook, you know, my whole thing. You know, I felt like almost Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, you know.
On stage, Malcolm tried to keep it together, but off stage, he was unraveling. In the middle of the band's Blow Up Your Video tour, Malcolm realized he couldn't take it anymore.
So I had a talk with Angus, and he said, how would you feel if I could at least take a break?
I think he was worried about me, that he'd be disappointing me. But he turned and he said, look, I'm gonna, you know, I'll have to stop, you know, because if I continue, he felt he'd become a casualty, you know.
And he was a big enough man to turn around and say, you know, I can't cope with this.
So I was letting people down. I was making people get worried about me. I wasn't brain dead, but I was just physically and mentally screwed by the alcohol.
The brothers recruited their nephew Stevie to play for Malcolm while he fought to get sober. In time, with the help of Alcoholics Anonymous, Malcolm was able to put down the bottle and pick up the guitar.
That did it. That got me right. It put me on track, you know. It woke me right up.
God knows what he went through. But whatever it was, he fixed himself better than ever, you know.